Okay, folks, my name is Sargis Singiri, Lieutenant Colonel Sargis Singiri, U.S. Army retired, and one of the co-founders of the Jewish and Assyrian Heritage Club, and the current president for the Jewish and Assyrian Heritage Club. I want to apologize right off the bat because I have allergies, so if it's hard for you to understand me, unfortunately I can't take medications. We gotta have shoulder surgery planned for Tuesday, so I can't take any medication until I get my surgery done. So with that said, last year we formed the Jewish and Assyrian Heritage Club, and after we established it, the young men and women that make up the core asked, because we have an election coming up, maybe we should go ahead and have a mayoral debate. Once we saw that other mayoral debates were not taking place, we figured that this would be the best time to be able to do the mayoral debate in order to give an opportunity for people that are running for office to be able to go ahead and have an opportunity to talk to the constituents, right? So there's one candidate here. Why did we decide to do the forum? In the military, we have something, and that forcing function is you do something to see what the reaction is going to be, to clarify for you whether your assumption is correct, valid, is it a fact or not. And I'm talking general. I know that some of my military buddies are probably cursing me out right now, saying that's completely off of what the definition is. I'm talking to civilian populace, so you understand it. That forcing function is what debates are for. So by what candidates do, don't do, what they say, what they don't say, it really defines who they are. And we wanted to do that for the Jewish and Assyrian Club to give you an opportunity for you individually as you go to vote to see whether or not those are the candidates that you want to vote for. We have some formalities. Before we begin, I'm going to call my youngest son. If you can, please stand and remain standing. We are going to the pledge, and then from the pledge, we have two recognitions we have to do. If you can stand, please stand.
I pledge to
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing if you could. Alan.
First of all, thanks everybody for coming. My name is Alan Kotler. I'm one of the co-founders of the Jewish Assyrian Heritage Club, Skokie Jewish Assyrian Heritage Club. I've lived in Skokie for 27 years, and I've been alive for 27 years. Just wanted to quickly just make a you guys may have noticed that we have three flags on the stage, and I just wanted to tell you guys why. We as the Jewish and Assyrian Club, we have a very strong affinity towards for our homeland, and for the Jewish people, that's Israel, and for the Assyrian people, it's the homeland is Assyria, and the Assyrian people have the same dream that the Jewish people did for 2,000 years to build a state of their own. And so as a grassroots group that represent the Jewish and Assyrian communities in Skokie, we wanted this to be clear to everybody here, that we both have a homeland that we've been yearning for 2,000 years, for the Assyrians. The Assyrian calendar is actually older than the Jewish calendar, I learned today. So, and they have the Assyrian New Year is actually the election day, April 1st. So, but anyway, before we start, we want to just quickly, I want to say a quick prayer for the hostages. Today is March 16th, 2025, day 526 since Hamas launched its attack on the peace-loving communities in the south of Israel, killing more than 1,200 men, women, children, and elderly. They also took hundreds of innocent people hostage, which started the Swords of Iron War. Over a year later, Hamas is still holding over 50 people, including 5 Americans, captive in the terror tunnels in Gaza. Some are alive and some are bodies who need a proper burial. Jewish Assyrian Heritage Club joins the chorus of voices all around the world to demand a swift return of the hostages to their homes. I will now sing a Jewish prayer for the hostages, and then I will say the translation. Achenu kol Beit Yisrael, Achenu kol Beit Yisrael. Those of you who know, you're welcome to sing along with me. Hanatunim besara uvashivya haomdim ben bayam uven bayabasham. Hamakom yerachem aleichem veyotziem mitzara lirvacha umyafel aliyora umeshibur legola hashta bagala uvizman karev. The translation is, our brothers, the whole house of Israel, who are in distress and captivity, who wander over sea and over land, may God have mercy on them and bring them from distress to comfort, from darkness to light, from slavery to redemption, now, swiftly, and soon. And let us say, Amen.
Please remain standing. 10 years ago, in 2014, I established my company, Near East Center for Strategic Engagement, on September 11, in memory of the Americans that were murdered on our soil, and also the first responders are still dying from the effects. In 2014, 2017, I actually was an advisor, and we led the Assyrian military force structures that fought in Syria and Iraq. February of this year, of course, was when initially in Syria, there was a celebration of the 10-year anniversary of the martyrs who gave up their life fighting against ISIS and ISIL at the time. Unfortunately, another genocide has already begun. And as you all see the news reports, Assyrians are again under attack. The only thing we ask you is keep them in your prayers. Understand the fact that for us as Assyrian and Jewish community, really we're always going to be under attack. I had given a talk at a synagogue in Canada years ago. If you get a chance, we have a Facebook page for the Jewish and Assyrian Heritage Club. Go listen to it. And nothing has changed over the 10 years when I made that speech. It's just a reality. With that said, I would ask you, if possible, please, a moment of silence for both the Assyrian and Jewish martyrs. Thank you very much. Please be seated. I'm going to ask Bradley Martin to come up here. He's one of the other co-founders of the Jewish and Assyrian Heritage Club.
Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel Sangari. Thank you, everybody, for coming out today on a Sunday. I'd like to thank you all for choosing to attend. Also, our mayoral candidates, two of whom are wearing their invisibility cloaks, but it's in any event. So, as Lieutenant Colonel Sangari said, my name is Bradley Martin. I am one of the co-founders of the Jewish Assyrian Heritage Club. And I would say that my journey, I suppose, towards learning about the Assyrian Christian community really came about, I would say, around 2016 when I was with Lieutenant Colonel Sangari. We were in California at the time, and I had a really memorable conversation with the now patriarch of the Assyrian Church of the East, Mar Uriel, and we had such a wonderful conversation, so memorable, and where he spoke about the commonalities, the very common areas of culture, of religion between Assyrians and Jews. And if you're interested, some of that conversation I put in an interview that I wrote for the Allgemeiner Journal. And it's really, just to make a long story short, it really was good. I thought it was a good idea to make this club to bring Jews and Assyrians together and develop relationships, both professional, friendships, and to bring these two ancient communities together and really get to know each other, because it's strange that we come from the same part of the world, and we should know each other better than what has happened now. So with that being said, thank you all, and yeah, enjoy.
Okay, folks, we're going to go ahead and begin the debate with one candidate. But before we do that, I want to make sure that our moderators introduce themselves. Please, if you can stand up and introduce yourself.
Oh, it actually works. All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Zach Thompson. I am a senior at UIC studying public policy.
Hi, my name is Ninwa Singari. I'm a 19-year-old student studying pre-law with hopes to transfer to Loyola.
So the format we had initially was going to be, like I said, based on the back and forth on discussions. We're going to do half hour of a debate, but decided to do 15 minutes of questions. Of course, if we had three candidates, that would give us basically 4 questions to knock out in 15 minutes, given a 1-minute response for each candidate. But because the other 2 candidates are not here now, we're going to change the format a little bit, as we had spoken. And what we will do is we are going to give our candidate here on stage 3 minutes to introduce himself to the room. And of course, a part of that initial introduction is why you're running. That question will not be asked. And, you know, we had talked about endorsements or non-endorsements, or what do you hope to achieve for the folks initially. And then after that, we are going to begin the debate. Questions are with our moderators, and you will have now 2 minutes to respond. And of course, nobody's going to invoke your name, so there's no portion of it as far as having to do a 30-second counter to what somebody may bring up. Again, I wish the other candidates were here. You know, we respect their decision not to be here. Every candidate has to make a decision of what is best for their race. I truly believe it's better for you to come and meet people face to face, and you know, sometimes you may not like what the people say, but again, it's important because you all are the reason we're here, not because of us. And as I tell everybody, you know, we don't elect dictatorships, we elect, you know, representatives, and if they don't do their job well, hopefully we can, you know, have a say in it 4 years later. With that said, sir, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, everyone. How are you? My name is Ozzy Lifsix. I'm running for mayor of Skokie. I want to say thank you to our hosts, the Jewish Assyrian Heritage Club. Yes, of course. Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel, for your service. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, and hello to everyone. I'm honored to be here, and I want to start by thanking the organizers and the audience for engaging in this process. I love Skokie. I came here from West Rogers Park, and I intend to raise my family here. We have world-class parks, world-class library. We have people that are unmatched, people that come here from across the state and across the country and across the world. We have 100 languages that are spoken in our high schools. The diversity is second to none. For the past 2 years, I've attended or watched every village board meeting because I'm a nerd. And I like that stuff. I actually really do like digging into the details. But that commitment means something to me, and it should mean something to you about what I would like to see happen. We are in a time where the differentiation between what happened before and what will happen now after this election is stark. We have half the board is not running for a re-election. We need to have more of the ability for the people that know what's going on to get in there and hit the ground running. I spent my career in law, government, and community advocacy, always focusing on trying to get results for people. As an attorney, I've dedicated my legal skills to helping people in need. I provided free legal services to survivors of domestic violence and fought for women facing workplace harassment. I believe in standing up for the vulnerable, whether in the courtroom or in public office. I believe in common sense leadership, following the data. This means strengthening public policy for safety by ensuring we have well-trained and well-supported police officers and firefighters, while improving employee retention by making sure that people stay and they don't matriculate to other villages or other municipalities. There are things going on at the federal level that we are all aware of. We need to make sure that our resources here at Skokie are used to the best of our ability. We have, I believe it's one of 8 public health departments that are accredited by the state out of the entire state of Illinois. We need to use that more. It means protecting essential services for youth, with people with disabilities, and other vulnerable residents. I'm ready to continue what has brought Skokie to what we see today. There's a reason why you're here. There's a reason why you didn't leave. There's a reason why you want to continue to have your family here, and a reason why I want to bring my kids up in this extraordinary village. I am deeply humbled by the endorsements that I've gotten in this race. Mayor Van Duzen himself, those are some very, very big shoes to fill, but I believe I'm up for it. 5 of our 6 village trustees, Jan Chakowski, County Commissioner Josina Merida, State Senator Laura Fine, but most importantly, it's my residents of Skokie and my friends. I'm running as your neighbor, not to be a dictator like what was said before, but I am here to listen to your concerns, to make sure that you are heard, and to make sure that village government works for you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today, and I look forward to this somewhat of a discussion. And I would really appreciate your support. Thank you.
Okay, we are going to begin the Q&A portion of this, starting with the moderators. Of course, we only have one, so the format has changed a little bit, but the questions are ready, and you have, sir, 2 minutes to respond to the questions now.
Right. Well, firstly, okay, I got to make sure to keep this close. Firstly, a couple thank yous. Thank you to the co-founders of this club. Otherwise, we wouldn't all be here today. And thank you to Mr. Lifsix for coming and not wearing his invisibility cloak today, and for taking the time to speak with us. So, first off, on the first question, in February of 2025, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker announced that the federal government was going to withhold $1.8 billion in funds that had previously been approved and signed into law by Congress. In a letter to the White House Office of Management and Budget, Governor Pritzker emphasized that state agencies, small businesses, nonprofits, and everyday residents of Illinois are struggling to access the promised federal funding. Now, earlier this month, Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson defended the city's welcoming city ordinance, also known as the Sanctuary City Ordinance, during a congressional hearing. Both Illinois and Chicago have prompted a federal response that suspends funding due to their refusal to align local ordinances with federal law. The village of Skokie holds the title welcoming city in a manner akin to Chicago's stance on immigration, though it is not a sanctuary city. Now, during February 2025's Village of Skokie board meeting, officials indicated plans to enhance the village's welcoming city sanctuary city ordinance. Once more, the federal funds that are currently on hold stem from the sanctuary state laws in Illinois, which do not adequately align with federal law or Trump's executive orders prioritizing homeland security investigations and immigration enforcement. So, given all this, my question to you is, if elected as mayor, how do you plan to navigate this rift created between federal and state policy, particularly when it comes to cooperation with federal immigration authorities?
Thank you for that question. This is extraordinarily important. There is the welcoming city ordinance that we have right now is, I believe it's the first reading. I believe second reading is coming up. What we need to understand is the difference between administrative and criminal warrants. The ICE investigations and enforcement actions that are happening are federal law. That is not something that I believe that Skokie's police department is able to help with right now. They have their plates full with what needs to happen right now. Whether that's going to be different with the criminal warrants, that is something that federal law already is on the books that we need to follow. That's not something we have a choice for. There's the federalism and there is the supremacy clause. There are things that we need to follow because that's the law. I'm not sure if this is going to be talked about a little bit later in the budget part of things, but we need to be able to enforce the laws that we have on the books right now. We need to make sure that the police are paid in the way that they need to be paid, and we need to not make a differentiation between somebody's immigration status when it comes to Skokie's, the way that Skokie does its business. There should be nobody that is scared to call the police if they're victim of a crime. There is nobody that should be afraid of coming to the Niles Township food pantry for lack of their immigration status. And we need to be able to make sure that our residents are protected and not be something that we have to talk about, that we're going to be enforcing federal law. That's what it is.
And a very quick follow-up question to that. Given Skokie's status as a welcoming city and potentially in conflict with federal law, as you mentioned, do you have a plan to address the potential loss of federal funds intended to support Skokie's small businesses, nonprofits, and residents?
Sure. I mean, if we can touch on the budget aspect of things. There is a difference between cutting up the pie in a different way or enlarging the pie that we have. We have about between 25 and 28% of our budget is sales tax. And if we get more people in Skokie, more businesses in Skokie, and more people to spend their money here, we'll be able to fill any gaps that may come up. I have a plan to consider somebody to a project that I want to call the Skokie Ambassadors Project. People that go out to eat or go out to vacation in other places, they'll be able to really understand somewhere that they see is going to be able to come to Skokie and thrive. We have people here that should be able to have all the information. They have, these are the available places that are available for rent. This is the square footage. This is the rent that we have that's being requested. And these are the 3 or 4 people that you need to talk to within the village. Those, then by the time they even leave the business, they're already on step 3. They already know where they're going. I think the village has done a really great job up until now to shepherd people that come with business ideas coming through to say, this is where your zoning is, this is where the licensing is, this is the people that you need to talk to, but we need to go out and grab more business to be here in Skokie. We'll have people in Skokie visiting that and spending their money, but I would like people from Wilmette spending their money so that they're the ones that are going to be funding our government.
Thank you.
Our next question will be about crime. In just the last few months, Skokie has experienced a slew of concerning criminal incidents. When we look at the surrounding municipalities, Skokie only barely trails Evanston for the highest rate. How do you plan to address the safety concerns of locals and residents?
Safety is always going to be close to home. I would really like to see the community watch come back, and this is a really great place to start learning more about your neighbors. People know who is on that block, or they should know who's on that block. So when something does look a little bit off, they'll be able to contact their neighbors to make sure that everything's okay. And if it's not, they should be able to talk to the police as soon as possible. The police need to be in a place where they are appreciated, and that means on a number of different levels. It's not necessarily fiscal. There are people that I know that there are police that have gone to different municipalities, and we need to stop that, because we are spending our own money to train them, and then they're going somewhere else. We need to be able to talk to all the police officers to make sure that we know what we need to do to keep them. But bringing back the neighborhood watch and really expanding the information that each neighbor can have about each other, it will not only grow the camaraderie of the village, but also hopefully will make sure that the crime will go down as well.
All right, so our third question will be transitioning over to government ethics and transparency. So recently, Skokie's been in the news about the sanctioning of a trustee for filing ethics complaints. So I want to understand what your position is on both the ethics complaints filed by Trustee Johnson and the sanctions imposed against him for what the board said were frivolous complaints. And more generally speaking, how will you address the need for transparency on municipal matters?
My understanding is that Mr. James Johnson's complaints that were filed, 4 different ethics complaints, was with the Ethics Commission, but none of them resulted in a sanction. I think it was just asked, but nothing was actually done. My understanding and my own personal investigation of what had happened is there is some politics behind it. There was a meeting, and things that were said were definitely not taken the way that it was intended. The Ethics Commission did their investigation, and they found 4 times that there was nothing there. Really was nothing there. This new ethics complaint, most of the allegations were dismissed, not for lack of substance, but because it was only over a year. There's statute of limitations, and that was why most of the allegations were dismissed. There was at least one allegation that was found to have merit, and there was going to be a investigation coming up, I believe, on the 19th. Trustee Johnson was warned by the mayor that what was said at the public lecture very much comes very close to campaigning. Whether or not that actually was campaigning from the dais is one thing, but using the village cameras, the village dais, the audiovisual equipment to send out emails from James Johnson's own email address may be considered electioneering, regardless of the content of what was said from the dais. It could have been, while it was very much against some of the people that James believes are their political opponents, that is not necessarily campaigning in itself, but once they send it out to their email list, it is what they're investigating right now.
Our next question will have to do with spending. On January 20th, 2025, President Trump appointed Elon Musk to lead the Department of Government Efficiency. This department aims to audit the streamlined federal operations and is currently reviewing existing contracts, including a $171 million in lease cancellations. In a similar vein of tactical wasteful spending, a nonpartisan group called the Skokie Alliance for Electoral Reform advocated for changes to Skokie's electoral system during the 2020 election by proposing to divide the village into wards, similar to Evanston. The purpose of this district-based representation is to provide more local representation that reflects the community's diversity. The referendums passed in 2020 and were enacted into Skokie law in 2024. However, this reform has raised concerns about increasing cost and the use of taxpayer money for dividing the village, resulting in higher expenses related to adjusting the electoral system and administration. These scenarios highlight a common concern. Skokie's residents worry about how tax dollars are utilized and whether elected officials are fulfilling their fiduciary responsibilities. If elected mayor, how would you address citizens' concerns that Skokie residents' tax dollars aren't being spent wisely, and to identify waste, fraud, and abuse?
That's a very good question. There are a lot of people that are concerned about what's going on within Village Hall. It's not simple to come in and really understand what's going on. There needs to be more communication in how things are decided. There are YouTube videos of every budget meeting. Everybody can go on right now and see it, although it's very, very dry. And it's not very interesting to a lot of people. If you do have the ability to get through it, you can get it. But it's incumbent on the village to meet residents where they are. We need to understand where residents get their information, whether that's text, whether that's social media, whether that's email, and we need to be able to send out that information to where they are, because there are plenty of people that do not get that information. One of the things that I would like to do specifically on the budget is have infographics on a dedicated web page on the website that shows the most recent budget, 5 years prior and 10 years prior, so that people can see the projection of how things are going, and with highlighting where things have gotten more than 10% of where it was prior, whether that's more or less.
All right, so on to our final question. So seeing as an event of the Jewish and Assyrian Heritage Club, which is composed largely of the Jewish and Assyrian youth of Skokie. There's obviously a very big effort towards ensuring the future of Skokie and the future prosperity of Skokie. So given that, our final question is, what do you see as the most significant challenges that Skokie will face in the next 4 or 5 years?
I'm not sure if the question follows the beginning, but if it's socially, this has been an extraordinarily difficult campaign. There's a lot of feelings. There's a lot of people that are talking in a way that I'm not sure that they would if they were facing each other, if they were talking to each other. I think what the Jewish Assyrian Heritage Club is starting is necessary for our entire village. We need to start sitting down outside of computer screens, outside of the phones, and really talk to one another, really understand what it is, the why behind your yes or your no. I'm a mediation trained attorney. One of the things that I would like to see within the village is not necessarily a dedicated mediator, but somebody that is mediation trained. Because there are times where very big issues and very small issues become very heated. For example, there was a story of a sidewalk that was supposed to be put in, and there were people that wanted it, there were people that didn't want it, and it got incredibly heated, incredibly fast. One person who had voted no to not put the sidewalk in, he had a very narrow driveway, and his concern was that if there was a sidewalk, he wouldn't be able to park his cars front to back. If we would have been able to get an information from this person and really dig down as to why, instead of him just saying no, we would have been able to figure that out. And we would have been able to get something more creative. Like in Timber Ridge, there's a sidewalk that's right next to the street. Whether or not it would have worked, that's for another conversation. But hopefully, in that type of case, we wouldn't be able to get to that very heated point. And I think that is something that we really do need to concern ourselves with, regardless of the result of this election. We need to come together as residents and start talking to one another.
We have time for one more question, actually, so go ahead if you want to ask another question. Okay. I'm not the moderator, they are. So. I just listened to them. We'll do a recap. The moderators don't want to ask another question. Just to recap, this was going to be the recap portion, right? If you had all candidates here, and then we were going to open it up for the candidates to talk to each other. But because we don't have the candidates here to ask each other questions, and you all saw it was very simple. 4 questions, that the young men and women here had put together. And this is, I guess, the recap on the answers to an extent. Just to be sure, for the residents of Skokie, and the first question that was asked, was on the Sanctuary Cities, correct? On the Sanctuary City, you are for the Skokie Police to work with ICE to arrest criminals, illegal criminals, correct?
Criminals.
Okay. The other question that was asked, I think, was on the issue of when it comes down to the issue of Dodge and what Dodge is doing at the federal level. You had a comment made as to what you would do, similar maybe, to open up a little bit more transparency for the folks. I will ask one question on that. Would you be committed to have a third-party legal firm outside to come in and look at not just the finances of Skokie, but also the legal use of legal in Skokie to drive those finances?
Which finances?
Everything, because all the contracts that have to be signed go directly through, of course, as you know, through the Skokie, legal department. Even when it comes to property and tax, would you be willing to dedicate or to promise that you would allow a third party to come in and kind of open the books like Dodgers to see if there's any waste of money anywhere, and if there's any way the system can be refined to make sure that waste doesn't take place?
I'm open to all understandings of where we can make things more efficient to save taxpayer
Money. Whether I don't want to commit to something that of maybe opening up some legal documents. I'm not exactly sure that I'm understanding, but if it's something to do with legal documents, we have to make sure that all the legalities are all our T's are crossed and our I's are dotted. If there is an outside legal firm that is something that they can do directly on this, I'd be open to it, sure.
Okay. Okay, and we're gonna now open it up let's open it up to questions, if that's okay, from the audience,
Sure.
because, that gives them an opportunity to kind of get their questions off the chest. So, ma'am, you were the first one.
Hello, greetings, happy New Year. Hillary Hunter, 33-year resident of Skokie, originally from Brooklyn, New York. Hillary Hunter, 33-year resident of Skokie. I raised my children here, originally from New York, but I loved Skokie, so I stayed here. I'm glad we're talking about money, because my first question, I have several, but I'll give other people a chance. My first question is, I've attended about 50% of the board meetings and seen some others online. I wanted to know, firstly, are you aware, I know you haven't been in government, but you've studied it, you said, are you aware of how much money, how many hundreds of thousands of dollars was spent on legal fees, penalties, and sanctions for the village's violation of the Open Meetings Act?
I believe the most recent OMA violation was dismissed. I don't have a direct number off the top of my head. And just one more thing, that I was part of municipal government in Chicago. I worked for Alderman Deborah Silverstein as her legislative counsel.
No, I meant, have you looked in the last 2 years at how much we have spent in Skokie of the taxpayers' money on repeated violations of the Open Meetings Act? Are you aware of that amount or not? If you're not, that's okay, I'm just asking.
I don't have that in front of me, no.
Okay. My second question, real quick, is, I don't see too many other hands. Oh, go ahead. Moderator, sorry.
We got some more folks. I'm gonna get it to them. Everybody I know has questions, but I want to make sure we get it to them. You had your hand up. I'll come back.
I also just want to say, I'll be here. If you have any other questions, that's fine, but I'll be here for as long as it takes.
Hi, Larry Greenberg. We have been residents here for 43 years and quite satisfied with life in Skokie in almost all respects. So my question relates to this. In listening to the forum for trustee seats, there was a lot of talk about transparency or the lack of it. So one thing I will say as a sort of an observation to get to the question is that with the decline of local press, the absence of local press, most of us only know what comes out in the Skokie Village newsletter. So that, and I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that or that there's any bias to it, but it's certainly one side of the question. And so this relates to a point that was made by one of the candidates for trustee, is that when we have votes at the board, we only know what passed. What we don't know, and we should know, is what the arguments were for that which passed, as well as arguments for that which failed, because those kinds of things often come back in a different form. Comment, please.
Are you more concerned maybe to change the minutes of the board meetings?
I'm talking about the discussion. What goes on in minutes usually relates to the motion was this, and it was 5-2. What I want to know is, what was the discussion? Why did it pass? what were the arguments for, and also what were the arguments against. I don't want to go into the analogy of what the Supreme Court does, but there are reasons why things are done and reasons why things are not done, and we should know about them.
Does this work? Other than going to the meetings or seeing on YouTube when the village board meetings happen in real time, there are some ways of getting that information out. One of the things that I think that the village needs to do a little bit better is to try to figure out how to do that, because so many different people have different ways of getting their information. We need to be able to meet the residents where they are and meet them, giving them the information on the medium that they do. I think the best way to accomplish what you're trying to get to is, I think, expand the minutes to really understand what the arguments that were made at the village board meeting to each of the, because sometimes you're not going to get that. There are going to be trustees that really do expand upon why it is that they vote a certain way, and some of them just will vote without saying anything. I would like to see something like what the Supreme Court does, like an opinion, or doesn't have to be very long. It just says, you know, I voted yes because of this. Put it on somebody's website. That might be a good idea.
Just a little suggestion.
Yeah.
You have the newsletter, and that's fine. But you also, Skokie's done a great job of notifying us when there's an alert.
Yes.
So if you, after a board meeting, if you've had votes that are significant, then you could put that information somewhere and just send us a text or an email saying it's there. It's on us to know to go there, but we need to know that something is there.
Right. And I think this might be a little bit off of what you said before. But the Skokie Smart 911 system, after what had happened with the water main break, I think there was, from what I understand, there was only about 9,000 people on the Smart 911 system. I would like to expand that immensely. That's probably one of my top priorities, because information when there is an emergency is really going to be very, very, very particular. And one of the things I think that we can probably do is model ourselves after the motor voter law. If people come into Village Hall for their sticker, we should ask them if they're signed up for the Smart 911 system, and if they're not, get them signed up. If they are, make sure that everything is up to date. And then we could also probably put that with the water bills as well, because those are the two things that everybody within the village are constantly being explained to and talked about. So we should up the amount of people that are part of that Smart 911 system. I'm not sure if it's going to be a little bit difficult to decide what's considered a significant vote, but I'm open to that as well, yes. Well,
Okay,
yeah,
folks, I need to move on. So when I give you the mic, ask a question and give an opportunity to others, okay?
Thank you. My name is Janet Ginsburg. I have two questions about zoning issues that have really stirred up the village. One is what happened with Carvana, and the other is sort of the Hotel Hulk on Oakton Street. They're very, very different cases. There were a lot of people who were very upset about Carvana, and there's a lot of people who are very concerned about the future of Hotel Hulk. So what would you have done different, or what can we do different so that we don't have a Carvana situation going forward? What missed there that could be done better? And with the hotel, and I understand, you know, financing, COVID, it was a whole long story. What are you going to do going forward so that we can either tear it down or find somebody new, or how do we handle this ruin in our midst?
Sure, thank you. The Carvana issue, depending on which part of it you're talking about, I believe the trustees that voted the way that they did, I think they really did have the best interests of the village at heart. whether or not it agreed with what the some of the petitions that I understand there were many. There were about 5,000 signatures, I understand, 6,000, some of which were not Skokie residents. But there are ways that we can listen a little bit better, whether or not it's going to result in the way that the people that created that petition wanted it to come out. We need to understand that the trustees, they have a job to do. They don't have the luxury of making sure that everything that they do is going to be accepted by every single resident.
It was a little extraordinary. There was a line out the door of people who wanted to testify and express their concerns with this. The mayor at one point wanted to cut their allotment of 3 minutes to talk to 2 minutes. A lot of people were upset. There was a trustee who literally turned his chair and turned his back to the group. It really raised questions about how are things, nobody felt listened to. It was a complete and utter failure. What would you do differently?
Well, other than listen to people, that is what needs to happen. I've sent out my cell phone number to the entire village. Oh. If anybody has anything that they want to talk to me about, you are more than welcome. I'm going to be here until the last person leaves. If anybody wants to talk to me, I'm going to be here.
Hi, I'm a grandmother of 5 children that live in Skokie, go to school in Skokie, so my future is invested here. My husband had a small business in Skokie for more than 30 years. I just wanted, this is kind of a follow-up question to the gentleman. The meetings that you referenced, are these available to us as the public to come and attend live in person?
Yes, every village board
Anyone
meeting.
here can attend that?
Yes.
Okay.
Every village board meeting is
So
open
it's
to the
transparent and anyone, you don't have to be a special person, it's not a hidden invitation only,
No.
anyone can come to those?
Anybody can come.
Oh,
And I would
okay.
like to expand actually the availability. One of the things that I would like to try is to partner with the Skokie Park District so that parents are able to come. It's at 7:30 on the first and third Monday of every month. And not everybody is able to make it there, especially because of childcare. And I don't know if it's something that we can do, but I would really like to see if we can get some childcare so that people will be able to attend when something is very important to them, to be able to come to one of those meetings. Yes. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rachel Novick. Given your commitment to fiscal responsibility, I'm really curious why you'd like to bring back a second day of trash pickup, given that it's much more economically efficient to offer a second bin to the small minority of people for whom once a week is not enough, and also that our current system provides the added benefit of reducing traffic and air pollution in our neighborhoods.
Well, I'm not exactly sure that is the case. My understanding for when the garbage pickup was reduced, it did not have any significant impact on the fiscal budget. It was an understanding from the Sustainability Commission in order to be more green and follow the sustainability plan of the village. There are multiple different aspects of how this has impacted people. Whether or not it's a small minority, I saw the village paperwork about that. I believe the number of people that were surveyed was somewhere around between 300 and 700, and that may or may not be the case of how many people use it. So that's on the budget part of things. But when I've been on the doors, I've knocked on almost thousands of doors. The number one problem that people are asking, 2 things that I say is, what do you like about Skokie? What do you dislike about Skokie? About 95% of the people say, I love Skokie. They have very small things that they need to talk about. Probably a stop sign. They would like a speed bump or something like that. But number one is rats. Number two is bring back second day a week garbage pickup without fail. Those are the two things. Whether or not the garbage pickup that went from 2 days a week to 1 day a week created the rat problem is probably not the case. It's a regional issue, but it's definitely has exacerbated the problem. We can't say that having something out there for the entire week has no impact on the rat issue. But I am open. That is something that I would like to do. I'm talking with all the trustees, the candidates for trustees, about how this may impact, but my number one concern is the residents of Skokie.
Hi, I'm a 28-year resident of Skokie, and I think there's been a member of my family living in this community since the early 1960s. So I watch every board meeting, and I hear everyone talking about inclusionary housing and how everyone has the right to live in Skokie. My concern as a resident of Skokie, also as a gerontologist, is how is my demographic going to stay in Skokie? So instead of, inclusionary housing is important, I'm not denying that, but what I would like to see you focusing on is senior housing in Skokie. One day, Baruch Hashem, I'll be an empty nester no time soon. I would like to know that I could move somewhere where the bathrooms are wide enough, the hallways are wide enough. God forbid something happens to me or my husband. It would be nice to know that we have universal housing or senior housing in Skokie. So instead of focusing so much, as mayor, will you focus on the people who live here and making sure that we can stay in our community?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your question. I had a meeting with Peter Levavi, who is the chairman of the housing subcommittee of the Plan Commission, and he builds affordable housing for a living. That's what he does. The inclusionary housing ordinance that was passed is somewhere between 7.5% and 12.5% of all new construction needs to be considered affordable, and that depends on how big the construction would be and if the project were to get TIF funds or not. I spoke to him, and his understanding of the demographics of Skokie and the way things are is that we do need senior housing. Senior housing will allow the people that are seniors, that are, what I like to use the term is overhoused. They have these very large homes that they were able to buy for their families at one point. They are empty nesters, but there's nowhere for them to go. They want to age in place. They want to stay in Skokie because it's such a great place. Once we are able to get some senior housing available, those people will be able to move out of their homes. That will open up those homes for the families that are already in mid-sized homes to move up, and people that want to come to Skokie and buy starter homes, or people that are renting to get to starter homes. That is how we keep things more affordable. More stock, more variety of what people are able to get in Skokie is where we need to focus.
Thank you for coming. I'm Steve Levin, resident of Skokie. So I know that one of the questions was about DOGE and trying to make the government more efficient, and while we all want a more efficient government, there have been concerns that the current approach by the federal government hasn't actually made things more efficient, like, for example, cuts to cancer research and air traffic controllers only to have to reverse course and then rehire the people who were previously laid off. So on the local level, would you at least commit to studying the impact of any potential budget adjustments, whether they're cuts or increases, before going ahead to implement any of these procedures?
100%. I want to follow the data. The data is where the information is going to be, and where we need to know how something that we're going to change is going to impact to have the secondary implications of whatever we're going to be doing. We need to make sure that there are recognizable, measurable, quantifications of whatever it is that we're going to be doing. And I would like as many voices at the table to be in those discussions, because I'm not necessarily going to know everything. I'm running with some people that I don't necessarily agree with on everything. I need to know when I'm wrong. I need to be able to understand when I have a blind spot. I don't have everybody's lived experience. And to be able to get to the most correct answer, because seldom there's going to be a right answer to everything. We need to get to the most correct answer, and by doing that is with the data, so that we have something to rely upon, and to get as many voices in the room to have that input. Yes.
Okay, folks, we're gonna get the mic to you again, but I gotta close out this portion before we get the mic to you, okay? There's, based on the questions you have asked, I'll ask 2 closing questions. We'll give 3 minutes for closing remarks, but you can still sit here. The candidate will sit at, yes, we will. Yeah. No, you will, yes. If you listen to what I'm saying, I have to close it out. Once it closes out, you're still here, you'll still get the mic, you'll still ask questions, but I have to close out this portion, okay? Is that clear? You're not going anywhere. You'll have the mic. The candidate said he'll stay here all night if need be, so. But I have to do the closeout. It's just part of the formal proceedings of what we had agreed upon. So the 2 questions, the concept of the TIFs came up, okay? And again, affordable housing. So one of the questions is the city, again, is considering changing zoning laws, as was mentioned, by a number of individuals to allow more affordable housing. These changes could place an additional burden on the infrastructure, emergency services, and schools. And you've answered somewhat, but want to go back to it. Do you favor changing long-standing zoning laws to accommodate that affordable housing? And if so, what changes are you going to be supporting? And you're looking for significant affordable housing developments that the city can incentivize through TIFs and other tax incentives.
This goes back to the previous question. We need the data. We just changed our housing ordinance to have an inclusionary housing ordinance between 7.5% and 12%. We don't know the ramifications at this point of what that is. We have some data coming from HUD. We went from, I believe, 17% affordable housing to about 21% affordable housing before we even put that implementation in. Whether or not that's compared apples to apples, or it's the machinations of the formula was different, remains to be seen. But we need to know whether development has gone, or I should say, the request for development has gone down